So I'd like to invite Ms. Mosher, Ms. Fuelin, and the students up to talk to us. And Mr. Sullivan, Dr. Sullivan would like to do an introduction.
I will, and actually, I'm going to let two individuals give introductions. First, I'll let Dr. Scollins talk a little bit about Reader's Workshop and what this is all about, why we brought it here, and then I'd like Principal Sullivan, who's with us, to introduce our guests and, of course, our amazing educators who are presenting. And I'm going to now move the card away to not be confused with the other project. So I'll leave it to you, Dr. Scollins.
Wonderful, thank you so much. So Reader's Workshop is part of our elementary comprehensive literacy approach that we have adopted here in Cohasset. It is along with our phonics program foundations in three, and our Hegedy program, which is a phonemic awareness program. We just want to make sure that we have students that can code and understand how words work. We also want them to have good understanding, comprehension, and really enjoy reading and really are motivated to be readers. And so Reader's Workshop is that part that really takes all the things that the students know around the phonics pieces, those fundamental components of reading, and then we get to Reader's Workshop. Now that is happening 3 through 5, and it is being implemented in a phased effect process. And the K through 2, there are some teachers that are implementing, but there will be full implementation of Reader's Workshop next year. So I'm excited because I've been walking around the buildings. I've been seeing how excited students are, and I don't want to take too much of this time because this is one of my favorite things. So I'm going to turn it over to our Deer Hill staff, and Principal Sullivan, would you like to introduce?
I would. So tonight we have some fabulous third graders here from Miss Mosher's class, and Miss Mosher is joined by third grade special educator, Mrs. Dumoulin. And I do want to read off some names. So when I read your name, if you could just give like a little wave to your fans out there in Facebook, TV, and streaming land. So hold on, I've got my little cheat sheet so I don't forget anyone. We've got Luke Burns is here, and Caitlin Sunday, and Joy Roth, and Isabella Waganowski, and John Watkins, and Ava Diadama on here. And I'm hoping Susan might be joining us. She's coming from dance class. So if someone scurries in, that would be Susan. If not, she will definitely be missed. And I've had the pleasure this year of being in Miss Mosher's class several times to see her Reader's Workshop in action. And she is a real leader in this charge. She has had some experience in the past in her work. She's done some work at Lesley University with some literacy and leadership kind of initiatives and training. And so I really think you've got a superstar here today and an amazing wingman who also has some great background in this work. And so we're so excited to have them here. We know though who our stars are. And so with that, I will let them take it away.
Thank you. So today we wanted to give you a little kind of insight of what it looks like daily in our classroom. So we're going to do a little mini lesson for you, but I want to talk to you a little bit about what we've done so far this year. So we started with the first unit called Building a Reading Life. And during that unit, we established routines in the classroom. The kids learned how to organize their book bins, how to select books. They built stamina. We went through routines of using reading logs and how to log in their books, and really got them to think about what reading should look like, feel like, and sound like within a Reader's Workshop, and understand the components of the Reader's Workshop of the mini lesson, the independent work, the conferencing, and then the share at the end. We had a mentor text called Stone Fox that took us through the first unit that was really engaging. The kids got to turn and talk about lots of different parts of the story. And we kind of worked through the story together to find out what happened at the end. So it did end very sadly, but we enjoyed that book. The second unit that we worked on was called Reading to Learn, and it was a nonfiction unit, and we focused primarily on narrative nonfiction. They read lots of biographies and learned about lots of different people who have been important in the past, and we focused on main ideas and details. They used a strategy called boxes and bullets to identify the main idea and supporting details that went along with paragraphs that they read and even larger pieces of text. And then that led us into our mystery unit, which we recently finished. And that was my favorite of all. I'm not sure about them. I'll pull them in a minute. But they got to become detectives. And during the book, during the unit, they got to read on high alert. We had 2 mentor texts that we read, The Absent Author, which was an A to Z mystery, and then The Diamond Mystery, which was from the Whodunit series. And both of them I thought were really engaging, and they were really great mentor texts for leading us through as detectives, finding clues, red herrings, and they really had to read on high alert. They learned how to take notes and had an opportunity to have a packet to take notes on, which many of them used a detective notebook case file during their time. And as we got further into mysteries, I gave them the opportunity to continue in this if this felt comfortable, or to then move into their notebooks and to complete their own notes on detectives, finding out who the suspects were and creating a suspect list, creating timelines, coming up with predictions, and really thinking about the clues that they were finding. So there was a way for them to move into an independent role or to continue on with this. I told them I'm not going to be able to give them a detective case file every time they read a mystery as they go through life, so they need to learn how to take some notes on their own too. Finally, we extended our learning. I brought a couple of their projects. This one belongs to Luke. They had an at-home puzzle piece detective mystery book project. The whole 3rd grade did this. So this one is Luke's. And they had to pick a mystery at home and read the mystery, and then use some of the same things that we were learning in class and apply them at home. Who were the suspects and the main characters? Who were their detectives? What were the clues? What was the mystery? They had to do a retell at the end. So we have a representation here of Luke's, which he chose to write his handwritten, which was one option. And then we have Caitlin, who read another mystery, and she chose the handwritten option as well. And then this student is not here, but they also had an opportunity to use a typed template too, if they wanted to type, and that was posted in Google Classroom. So there are lots of different opportunities for them to present their work. That was their kind of at-home component. So let me just get a poll from them. So out of your 3 units, the first unit was Stone Fox, Building a Reading Life. That's your first choice. Which one was your favorite? Second unit, which was Reading to Learn. That was nonfiction. Or 3rd unit, Mysteries. Raise your hand if Building a Reading Life was your favorite. Reading to Learn, Mysteries. Perfect. So we're going to recreate a mystery, and that was not favorite. So that was my favorite too. We're going to create a little mystery unit, a lesson for you today, which was a lesson that we did, and it's called Readers Apply the Work of One Kind of Fiction to All Fiction. But before I go into that, I will let Julia kind of give you a little introduction on what she does when she's in the classroom with students.
So hi, my name is Julia Dunlin, and I work in 3rd grade. And with specific students, I have certain academic goals that I'm always working towards. Sometimes we work in the classroom, sometimes we work out of the classroom. When I'm in the classroom, not only am I working towards those academic goals, but I'm just helping them access the curriculum and whatever the rest of the classroom is doing. So, and through that is differentiation. And that looks like many different things, but it typically looks like me bringing in specific tools or worksheets, or even sometimes me just bringing in a different language, a different way of saying it. So yes, that's just my role.
Perfect. So to simulate kind of what it looks like in our classroom, the students each have their own book bins up here. And friends, you can turn around if you want to at this point, in case that's here. And in their book bins, they have a reading folder that they keep their reading logs, or they would keep their detective case file if we were in our reading mini lesson. Our mystery unit, they have books that they're currently reading, and they've cleaned out their bins, so these are the books that they are reading right now, and they have Post-its in here. Everything we need for reading bookmarks are in our book bins daily. So we brought those just to kind of simulate what it looks like. We are always gathered on the rug together, and most of the time we have an anchor chart that will guide us through the lessons. So this is only my 2nd time teaching this lesson, so I'm going to try my best to not look at the script just as much, which the script kind of guides you through things, but I've really tried this year as I'm delving through the books to try and make it my own as much as I can. So here we go. Our lesson today is readers apply the work of one kind of fiction to all fiction. Okay, so readers, we are starting our third bend, which is the last bend in our mystery unit. And we are going to get some books. So I know that you've all read lots of mysteries, some of you more than one, some of you might be finishing up a mystery. But today, I decided I'm going to try something new, and I chose a book for you. Now, I know a lot of times you like to choose your own books. Joy just will choose my book for me. But I think a lot about the things I know about you and what you like about different things. I think about the sports and the activities that you talk about at morning meeting. So I've chosen some books for you. So before we go home, I want to just try it. So I'm going to pass out a new book to each of you. And I'm going to tell you that if you don't like this book at the end of our time today, you can turn it in. But I just want to give you an opportunity to try something new. Okay, so this is our last bend of our mystery unit. So I'm going to give you your next mystery book to read. And when you get it, I want you to look at the cover, I want you to look at the back, and I want you to think about this. This one for you. I picked this one for you. Love that book. This one. One extra for Susan. All right, so I want you to take a minute and I want you to look at your book. This is the book that I'm proposing that you read for your last mystery book. What are your thoughts? So what do you think about that? Less nervous. Today, I want to teach you that every time you read as a mystery reader, you're learning how to read as a fiction reader too. I want to teach you that you are, as a reading detective, learning lots of different skills that you can use when you're reading fiction too. Remember this book, Stone Fox, that we read? We read this book a long time ago, at the beginning of the year. And it wasn't a mystery. But we use so many different skills that we learn with mysteries when we're reading this book. Now, remember in the beginning, little Willie had a problem. Grandfather was what? Grandfather was sick. We didn't know why. We knew that little Willie didn't know why. Grandfather didn't know why. And I was wondering, what's going to happen? And then this man knocked on the door. Who remembers who the man was? Who was he? Who was Dr. Schneider? Do you remember who he was, what his job was? He was a tax person. He was a tax collector. And then we're thinking, why was a tax collector? Door, all these different pieces we're trying to think. This is a fiction book. But I know that as we were reading this, we read like detectives. How was this a mystery book? Can you turn and talk to somebody near you and think about how is this a mystery book? So it has a mystery. How do I turn? Okay, friends. I was talking with Joy and Ava, and I asked them to tell me about why they thought this was a mystery. And they said because they had to find out why Grandpa was sick, right? And that was kind of mystery. As we're reading, whether a book is a mystery or not, you're thinking, what's the mystery here? What's going on? And before I send you off to try out your new mystery books today, or fiction books, I want you to think about how many similarities there are between fiction books and mysteries. So I've created a chart up here, and you're going to help me fill it in. I want you to look at all of the black that's up here. All of the black represents what's the same between mysteries and fiction books. We're going to fill in some missing things And the things that are missing are still kind of similar to each other. So I'm going to need your help. I'm going to ask you to turn and talk a little bit, and I might just ask for your ideas a little bit too. Let's think about when we're reading mysteries and when we're reading fiction. When we're reading mysteries, what do we ask in the beginning of our reading? What's the number one thing we ask when we're reading a mystery? What's the number one thing you think we ask? Luke, what do you think we ask? What's the mystery? What's the mystery? I want you to turn and talk to the person next to you. What do we ask when we're reading fiction? What's the what? What's the mystery? What could be a solution? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think, Bella? We ask, what's the problem? What's the problem? I heard somebody say solution too. A lot of times there's solution. Is there a solution in a mystery? Yep. In a mystery, we ask in the very beginning, because we know how mysteries go, we ask something. What do we ask in the very beginning of mysteries? Hold on to that thought. Versus what do we ask in the beginning of fiction? I want you to try and talk to the person next to you. What do you ask? Who is the what? All right, Joy, what do you think then? What's another word for detectives? Which word? What do we use? What? We use detectives, and I heard somebody say it before. Can I ask a friend? Oh, I love how you have all those words. We use crime solvers, we use sleuths, we use detectives, but we use crime solvers a lot. Who is the crime solver? How about in fiction? What do we ask? Who are the characters, or who is the main character? I want you to think about how these are similar but different. You're looking for a mystery, you're looking for a problem. Look at kind of the same thing. Crime solver is usually going to be the main character. What are you paying attention to when you are reading mysteries? You have to pay really close attention to something to do what? And then in fiction, pay close attention to something to do what? What do you think? I want you to turn and talk to your neighbor about what you think about this. There's some more ideas in this one. What do you think? So what would it be in to what? Pay attention to solve. Nice. I'm hearing some good thinking. What do we need to pay attention to in mysteries? What do you think? John, what do you think we pay attention to in mysteries? We have to pay attention to the...
You pay attention to the mystery.
We're paying attention to mystery. What are we looking for? We're on high alert looking for... We're looking for clues. To solve the mystery. Remember, we're looking for clues, and we have to remember that anybody can be a suspect. All right. In fiction, what are we paying attention to? What are we paying attention to?
We're paying attention to like main ideas.
Main ideas, and what comes along with the main ideas? All the details. We want to pay attention to details to do what? I'm going to put problem in. I'm going to use some other words to help solve the problem, to figure out the problem. Same thing. All right. I want you to think. We need to draw on what we know about the who in this one, so we can make some predictions. And we need to draw on what we know about the who in this one to make predictions. We did a lot of predicting based on what we knew, and we paid really close attention to what in mysteries. We paid close attention to Bella.
Suspects.
We paid close attention to suspects. We learned that anybody can be a suspect. So who do we need to pay close attention to in fiction books? Suspects are another word for what? What are they another word for? Characters. You got it. As you're noticing, even though these are different, they're so similar. When we're reading mysteries, it's just like when we're reading fiction. They just have some different names for what we're looking at. What should we be pausing to do when we're reading? 5 fingers, palm of our hand, we need to pause to what?
Take notes or draw.
Okay, what are we trying to do as we're reading? What if we read one page or one chapter? What should you do before you move on to the next one? Turn and talk to your friend and tell us, what do you think?
What you're supposed
Okay, friends. What might we pause to do? And notice this one's gonna be in both. This one's for both. Bella, what are we gonna pause to do? We might stop and jot, and when we're looking through all of our information, before we're ready to move on, what do you think we're gonna do?
Retail.
Why?
Know what's going on and maybe give information to what happens next.
This was my favorite one, and I think a lot of you enjoyed this with mysteries. Who can you collaborate with? Who can you talk with when you're reading mysteries versus when you're reading fiction? Who could you talk with, Caitlin?
For mysteries, your code
Co-detective. I love that. And for fiction, just a partner. All right, almost done here. Sometimes when you're reading, things might get, we need to take action. And we might need to use some strategies when things might, what?
Get tricky.
Get tricky. What are some strategies we might use when things get tricky? John, can you tell me one?
Maybe you slow down.
You might slow down. What else would you do? You might reread.
Think about what's going on in the text to try to make out like it's a word trying to
Who'd you talk to? What would you talk to? Your co-detective or your partner? Lastly, we need to think, how does blank go? We need to think, how does blank go? When we're thinking all about our reading. Say, Joy, can you give me one of them? Think of how. You got it. And think about how does fiction go? Friends, I hope you realize today that reading mysteries and reading fiction is very similar. So even though I gave you some new books and I told you they were mysteries, you know they're fiction books. I'm going to ask you today to try these books. Just give it a go. And at the end of Reader's Workshop, if you don't want to read this book anymore, you can change it out in the library. But I'm really hoping that you're going to want to read it. And I'm hoping that at the end, when we come back together, you can give your partner or co-detective some information about why you're going to read the book or why you're going to maybe swap it out. But I hope you'll consider it. All right. At this point, I would say off to you go. Before we wrap up, though, not all of our class could be here, but we wanted to give everybody a voice today. So I asked the students before we left to end the day what they like about Reader's Workshop. Is anybody willing to read one of them? Pass a couple of different. They might not be yours that you read or that you wrote. Excuse me. Would you like to read them? I'm going to ask you to turn around too.
Next to that.
Yeah. So the question was, what do you like about, it's yours, perfect. What do you like about Reader's Workshop? Turn around, let's make sure everybody from our class has a little bit of voice. All right, Luke, you want to start?
Sure. I like reading independently because it's just some nice time to read a good chunk of a book and bookshop for a new book if I finished.
Awesome. You can read yours.
I like Reader's Workshops because I like reading different books. Unless Reader's Workshop is also a time where I can read with a nice time and quiet moment. I like it when you get to sit down and read any book you want. I like how we get to talk to a partner about are books that we have read. I like falling into the books and feeling what the characters feel. I also like reading for a long time, reading walks. I enjoy reading independently. I love getting lost in books.
Awesome. So thank you for having us today.
Great. Great job, everyone. So now we'll turn it over to our committee members to maybe ask us some questions. Mr. Kieran, any questions or comments?
I just think this one was a great presentation.
Mr. Carr?
Well, I want to go back to the Deer Hill School. I know it's hard when you get other people that aren't in your class. Thanks for putting up with us. This was a lot of fun. I looked up, so Google tells you funny things, and my son is now a sophomore in college. But 10 years ago, he was at the Deer Hill School in the 4th grade, and today was Trash to Treasure Innovation. I don't know if they still do that, so it's nice to see very cool things still happening at the Deer Hill School. So thanks for coming here.
Ms. Allen?
That was awesome. Great job, readers, and awesome job, teachers. I have to just compliment you as someone who's done a lot of training with TLA as well. That was like a really well done. Beautifully done. Should have been, well, it is awesome. So share that if that's somewhere. That's like great evidence for you. Thank you so much for sharing. It's really, really well done. And I just think that it's so obvious from these kids and from my own kids that a love of reading and also a lot of reading endurance has developed this year, which is something that was really hard to develop. I think parents, you can probably agree with me, when we were trying to teach our children at home, it's a little harder to convince them. But you've done a beautiful job with it. It seems super engaged.
Mr. McCollum?
Thank you to the students. Thanks, guys. You guys must love being in Mrs. Mosier's class, right? So much fun. So thank you for reading and for sharing your thoughts. You guys did a great job. And for helping us fill out the chart and figuring out why mysteries are kind of similar to fiction, reading and how you read them. I must confess that I had the benefit of being a parent of Mrs. Mosier's class, and so I have already benefited from her gifts. And it's very evident what an incredible educator you are. That what you just did is actually really hard to do, like in front of people and in a different setting outside the classroom, yet you were still able to engage the students as they're sitting right there. It took a few seconds, but then they got right into it, right? And I just want to commend you on that. I mean, it just shows like how awesome of a teacher you are. We're really lucky to have you. You're a huge asset. I also want to just comment on two things. One is the collaboration that you continuously fostered when you were going through the lesson, right? That's really important, and it's sort of it's an example of something that's, a little bit newer from when maybe all of us were in school learning. We didn't do that as much, and it's really, it's so much more engaging. And so the kids, they're not just listening to you and then like sort of dozing off or just like, drifting and not paying attention. They're fully engaged, and, you can see it. And they're all talking, you took them from into coming from this weird setting, right? But like, even then, you were able to do it. So it's really effective. The other thing I want to talk about, or just note about Mrs. Mosier in particular, is that you're a real innovator with the way that you do things in the classroom. Obviously, you are, required to adhere to certain standards and requirements, but the way you do that and some of the things that you do, some of the way that you organize your classroom, organize data and information about your students so that you can better educate them. For example, you noted in the lesson that you had selected the book based on some of the activities and interests that they have. And I just want to commend you on that. It's like, a lot of examples here, a lot of evidence that we can sort of, that I would like to see throughout all of our classrooms. I'm not saying a lot of teachers don't do that, and I don't want to like put you on the spot or embarrass you or anything like that. But I think it's worth noting how wonderful a job you do, and it's so easy to miss, which makes that demonstrates how effective it is. I mean, you sort of seamlessly incorporate all of these things into your lesson without, and someone with like less of a trained eye wouldn't even understand. And if I 4.5 years ago before I was on the school committee and started being exposed to all of these these wonderful concepts, I wouldn't have necessarily known it. But as I'm going along and listening to you and watching and picking these things out, it's like you do an amazing job, and we're really lucky to have you. So I want to make sure to note that you guys are so lucky to have her. She's a great teacher. What is your what do you guys like doing the best in school? Who has like you guys like reading the best, or math the best, or science, or what? Anyone? Reading?
Math.
Math?
Math.
Okay.
Science.
All right, science. Yeah, all right. Science guy, good. Well, I hope you guys are loving third grade. You're already more than halfway through. Can you believe it? You won't be the youngest one in Deer Hill anymore. Okay, well, thank you guys.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, kids. You guys are awesome. Very good work. I just want to highlight for people who are watching, this is a real show of the quality education that our kids are getting here. And really the change in education and the education methodologies we're showing, it shows, kids working together. You guys like working together when you're learning?
Yeah.
So when I was doing that, my teacher would have just filled in the blocks for me and I'd have to memorize them. You guys were figuring it out like detectives, right? So that's fantastic. So I'm gonna go home and read a mystery because I'm inspired now that I know how to think about it as a detective. So thank you very much, and thank you for the example of this lesson and how it's an example of our wonderful school. So I appreciate it. Any Dr. Scollins or Dr. Sullivan, any closing remarks?
Yeah, I think, thank you so much, students. Such an amazing job. I think, you bring up some really good points, all of you, about, this process and this approach that we're taking. And obviously this was wonderful. And this is what's happening in our classrooms, to your point, and having CLA come in, helping them with that embedded professional development that we were talking about makes such a big difference, because they're getting in real time, they're getting opportunities to practice what they're learning in that collaborative way too, because they're doing it by grade level, they're practicing with the students, and I think that makes a really big difference. So and I think also one of the benefits of this is students see their teachers as learners also. And so that means that we're all learners and we're all learning to do something new. And it allows us to take risks and take chances. And so I couldn't be happier with how this is all playing itself out. So thank you so much. You were very brave.
I'm sorry, Dr. Scott, just before we finish, I neglected to recognize Ms. Dumoulin as well, who, and, I'm so sorry. I'm so focused on classroom instruction, and I also, obviously have more of a personal relationship with Ms. Mosher because my daughter went through class. But we could also see, and I noticed this as the lesson was going on, so our, special education teachers will be there accompanying a lot of lessons and being able to provide not only support to the instructor, but support to the students. So students that may be processing information in a different way or in need of other tools, you'll be there supplementing that instruction so they're benefiting just as much. And I could see that when you're there, not necessarily working with necessarily a special education student, but assisting in the lesson to further engage the students. And it's really important that we recognize that too. And it's, our special education staff in Deer Hill does such a wonderful job. And I did not want to neglect that at all. Because I did notice that. I wanted to mention it. I forgot, and I got caught up in Mrs. Mosher's accolade, but thank you for everything you do too. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think, Ms. Mosher is wonderful. I completely agree with you. But I think one of the most wonderful things is that she's great to collaborate with, and that's one of my other roles is collaborating with all the classroom teachers to make sure I know exactly what's going on, so I can come in and be prepared and I know where the kids are. So yes, that's another part of the role.
And I'll just add that, I want to hats off to Dr. Scollins, to Principal Sullivan, to all the teachers, because this is embedded PD. And this is PD where they're learning, and it's, this is a great example of two wonderful teachers. Ms. Mosher said, this is our second time going to this lesson. So like anything else, this is not meant, that was masterful, but like anything else, as you practice them, you get better at it. It becomes more second nature. What we're really doing, and that I'm very proud of, and what you're doing, and I'm helping to support, and you're doing, is to build common language across the district. We're building it through right now, K through 8. We'll be doing the same language, the same techniques. You saw turn and talks there. You think about the triangle of success. You have the teacher, the student, the curriculum, in the presence of a task. And that's what makes a difference. And this is really high level stuff that's going to make a huge difference with our kids, not only in inspiring their love of learning, which is a motivational factor, but in how they process information, which is a scientific factor. So I think this is a great example of all that coming together with the programs we have in place. So I think the future is bright, and this is a great example. And you students were amazing, and thank you for the parents who are here for allowing us to teach these amazing students. Because let me tell you, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So that's all.
Long school day for them.
Yes. Thank you very much,
Look, they're
everyone.
still smiling, and they're great, and they're doing a good job. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm gonna quietly.
Have a great night's sleep. School in the morning. No storms coming tonight. Thank you.
Those are always the uplifting things. to see.
Absolutely.
The real core of what we're doing. We often get caught up in buses and parking and lights and things like that, but it's a great reminder to see.
Yeah, they make it run, but
Yeah. It's a good reminder to see it actually in action. So
Thank you, Principal Sullivan.